When you conjure the image of a Ferrari, what typically springs to mind?
Perhaps the aggressive stance of a 488 GTB, the timeless elegance of a 250 GTO, or the raw power of a LaFerrari. These are machines engineered for speed, adorned with dramatic curves and vents that scream performance.
They embody the very spirit of Italian automotive passion and engineering prowess.
But imagine a Ferrari that defies these conventions, a concept so radical it forced the world to question everything it thought it knew about the prancing horse.
This is the story of the Ferrari Luce.
The Ferrari Luce, Italian for light, was not a production model, nor was it ever intended for mass manufacturing.
Instead, it emerged as a bold conceptual statement, a pure design exercise commissioned by Ferrari to explore new aesthetic territories. It was a vehicle stripped down to its most fundamental elements, challenging the very notion of what a luxury sports car should be. Rather than showcasing raw power or aerodynamic wizardry, the Luce was an exploration of form, volume, and minimalism. It was a blank canvas, daring to redefine elegance in an unexpected, almost stark manner. So, who dared to craft such a departure from tradition?
The answer lies with Pininfarina, the legendary Italian design house responsible for shaping countless iconic Ferraris throughout history. While often associated with the curvaceous lines of masterpieces like the Dino 246 GT or the F40, Pininfarina also embraced forward-thinking design. The Luce project likely stemmed from a desire within Ferrari and Pininfarina to push boundaries, to imagine a future where automotive luxury could exist without conventional embellishment. It was an intellectual exercise, a what-if scenario brought to life by master craftsmen.
Why does the Luce look so strikingly different from its brethren?
The core philosophy behind its creation was an extreme interpretation of minimalism. Gone were the aggressive air intakes, the intricate aerodynamic winglets, and the voluptuous curves that define most Ferraris. In their place stood a sleek, almost monolithic form, characterized by smooth, uninterrupted surfaces and an almost ethereal simplicity. The designers sought to remove every superfluous detail, creating a vehicle that felt light, agile, and almost ghost-like. It was an aesthetic rebellion, a quiet whisper in a world of automotive screams. One of the primary reasons for the Luce's polarizing reception was its perceived lack of Ferrari DNA.
Enthusiasts often associate the brand with a visceral, almost animalistic aesthetic.
They expect to see visible engines, prominent exhaust pipes, and a stance that suggests explosive power. The Luce, however, offered none of this.
Its clean lines and almost featureless body seemed to deliberately obscure its performance potential, if any.
This absence of traditional cues created a cognitive dissonance for many, making it difficult to reconcile the prancing horse badge with such an understated, almost anonymous design language.
It felt alien.
The initial reaction to the Ferrari Luce was, to put it mildly, mixed. For many purists and brand loyalists, it felt like a betrayal of everything Ferrari stood for.
Where was the drama? Where was the passion? Critics lambasted its boring aesthetic, its lack of character, and its perceived abandonment of the brand's heritage.
It was seen not as a brave step forward, but as a misstep, an unfortunate experiment that should quickly be forgotten. The silence of its lines was deafening to those accustomed to the roaring symphony of Maranello's finest. It became a poster child for what not to do.
The Luce's radicalism came at a price: widespread misunderstanding.
The automotive world, then as now, often struggles with designs that stray too far from established norms. While many concepts push boundaries, the Luce actively dismantled them, proposing a paradigm shift that few were ready to embrace. It didn't just push the envelope, it redefined the envelope itself. This meant that its subtle beauty and intellectual underpinnings were lost on an audience conditioned to expect overt displays of speed and luxury from a Ferrari. It was too abstract, too academic, for a brand built on tangible emotion. Yet, for a discerning few, the Ferrari Luce was not an eyesore but a revelation.
Supporters lauded its purity of form, its brave embrace of minimalism, and its sophisticated elegance.
They saw beyond the absence of traditional Ferrari tropes and recognized a deeper artistic intent.
For them, the Luce wasn't about what it lacked, but what it achieved, a timeless aesthetic that transcended fleeting trends.
It was a bold statement that true luxury could be found in simplicity, in the perfect execution of form, rather than in ostentatious displays. This perspective highlighted a philosophical divide. Its proponents argued that the Luce was a masterpiece of minimalism, a car designed not to shout, but to whisper. In an era where cars were becoming increasingly complex and visually busy, the Luce offered a refreshing counterpoint. It was a vehicle that demanded closer inspection, revealing its carefully considered proportions and exquisite surfacing. This wasn't laziness in design, it was an extreme discipline, a commitment to reducing a complex object to its essential truth. For those who appreciated this philosophy, the Luce represented the epitome of modern elegance, a silent protest against automotive excess. Perhaps the most compelling argument for the Luce's brilliance is the idea that it was simply ahead of its time.
Design trends, particularly in the automotive industry, ebb and flow. What might seem radical or even ugly today could become revered tomorrow. The Luce's unadorned aesthetic, its focus on clean lines and integration, mirrors many of the principles seen in contemporary electric vehicle designs. With electric cars, there's less need for traditional grilles or aggressive vents, opening up possibilities for simpler, more fluid forms. The Luce, in this light, was a prescient vision of the future. Looking back, we can see how automotive design has gradually moved towards some of the principles the Luce championed. Today, many luxury brands, and indeed mainstream manufacturers, are embracing cleaner, more integrated designs. The cluttered aesthetics of the past are slowly giving way to smoother, more sculptural forms, often influenced by aerodynamic efficiency and the unique packaging of electric powertrains. This evolution makes the Luce's once controversial appearance seem less jarring and more prophetic. It highlights how certain concepts only find their true audience and appreciation years, or even decades, after their initial unveiling. So, if the Ferrari Luce were released today, would it finally find success? The answer is likely yes, but with a nuanced understanding. The current automotive landscape is far more receptive to minimalist and unconventional designs, particularly within the luxury and EV segments. Brands like Tesla, Lucid, and even traditional marques are exploring radical simplicity. However, for a Ferrari-badged vehicle, the expectations for performance and emotion remain paramount. A modern Luce would still need to reconcile its stark aesthetics with the visceral thrill inherent to the brand, perhaps through revolutionary powertrain integration. The challenge for a modern Luce would still be its Ferrari identity. While the design world has evolved, Ferrari's core clientele still crave a certain level of drama and performance theatrics. Could a truly minimalist Ferrari capture the hearts of the tifosi? It would require a masterful blend of cutting-edge technology, unparalleled driving dynamics, and a subtle nod to Ferrari's heritage, perhaps through materials or interior details. The Luce as a pure concept might thrive, but as a production Ferrari, it would walk a tightrope between design purity and brand expectation. Ultimately, the Ferrari Luce serves as a profound reminder that design, especially at the highest echelons of automotive artistry, is rarely about universal appeal. It's often about pushing boundaries, provoking thought, and challenging preconceived notions. The Luce was never meant to be pretty in a conventional sense, nor was it intended to outsell any other Ferrari. Its purpose was to make a statement, to explore an alternative path, and to demonstrate Pininfarina's and Ferrari's capacity for innovation beyond the familiar. It was a conceptual exclamation mark. So, after all this, what's the final verdict on the Ferrari Luce? Was it the worst designed Ferrari in history, or a brilliant masterpiece ahead of its time? The truth, as often is the case with radical art, lies somewhere in the nuanced middle. It was undoubtedly a design that alienated many, failing to resonate with the traditional Ferrari audience. In that sense, one might call it terrible for its inability to align with brand expectations. However, for its sheer audacity, its minimalist purity, and its uncanny foresight into future automotive trends, it stands as a brilliant conceptual achievement. It's a testament to brave design. The Luce's legacy is not measured in sales figures or lap times, but in its impact on the conversation around automotive design. It dared to ask difficult questions about identity, beauty, and the future of luxury. It reminded us that even a brand as steeped in tradition as Ferrari must occasionally look beyond its own heritage to innovate. Whether you personally find it beautiful or bizarre, the Ferrari Luce remains a significant, albeit controversial, chapter in the story of automotive design. It's a reminder that true innovation often begins with discomfort, and that the greatest works are sometimes the most misunderstood. What are your thoughts on the Ferrari Luce? Do you see it as a bold, visionary statement, a minimalist masterpiece that foreshadowed the future? Or do you stand with the traditionalists, viewing it as a misguided experiment that strayed too far from the essence of Ferrari? We'd love to hear your perspective in the comments below. Let us know if you think the Luce would thrive if released today, or if it would still be met with the same polarizing reactions. This enduring debate underscores the power of design to evoke strong emotions and spark endless discussion.